Shrink wrap and duct tape maker Intertape is moving jobs from Nova Scotia to Utah. It says it has competitive pressures behind the move. It's the latest company to shift jobs out of Canada. Caterpillar closed its electromotive train plant in London, Ontario in February. And General Motors CEO Daniel Akerson recently said Canada is the most expensive place in the world now to make cars after cutting jobs at its Oshawa plant. So is our lack of competitiveness hurting our prosperity? Roger Martin is the Dean of the Rotman School of Management and co-author of the new book, Canada, What It Is and What It Can Be. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Now, you've worked with hundreds of companies. You're a globally recognized leader on innovation and on productivity. I want to actually start with what moved you to write this book, because you have been talking about how to make Canada more productive and prosperous for years. What are you hoping to do with this book?
Well, part of it is to summarize a decade's worth of work at the Institute for Competitiveness and Prosperity into one kind of user-friendly, readable book on the subject. And the hope is to overcome some of the mythology about competitiveness, productivity, prosperity, and give some, hopefully, bold and creative ideas for how to make it better.
If we look around the world at countries like Israel, who have the moniker of startup nation, what is it that they have that we don't have? Are we lacking some kind of moxie to be competitive?
I don't think that's the case. I think in many respects Israel is the nation it is in part because it doesn't have much other than people to build with. It doesn't have natural resources. It has enemies on all sides. It's not very big. And so what it says is we have to work really hard, and we can't just do what everybody else is doing and hope that we're going to succeed marvelously. We have to do different things, better things. For Canada, the two challenges we have, big challenges, is one, we have a lot of kind of God-given resources, and so it's easy to dig them out of the ground or chop them down and earn a good living off of that. And the second is that for 111 years, we told all our manufacturing and service companies, you're actually not very good. And because you're not very good, we're going to protect you with a huge tariff. That's from the first passage of trade tariffs in 1878 to 1989. And so our companies didn't really get the feeling that they had to innovate and be better. They could just replicate what they saw south of the border at a smaller scale in Canada, and they could wait for things to happen there and do it behind this protection. So I think those two things have created an environment in which Canadian companies don't first think we have to do something new, different, better, unique.
Productivity being, the most important kind of measure of our collective wealth. You quote the great Paul Krugman quote saying it's not everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything.
It's almost everything.
You also have some prescriptions, what we need to do, what Canada should do. What are the most important of them? And when you kind of look down, there's policy on taxation, there's policy on trade, there's policy on innovation, not invention.
Yes.
What do you think is kind of job number one? If you got Stephen Harper by the lapels, what is it?
I've come to believe that it's really broad-based innovation education,
yeah.
Right? And particularly education on business innovation. And my thinking is that isn't it interesting that when the world sort of got medicine, figured out something about medicine, they said, let's not just let the few people who try to understand what this is do it. Why don't we educate for it? Why don't we create medical schools? And suddenly you have lots and lots of doctors, and you have better medicine. When computers came along, we said we'll have computer science and computer engineering courses to train them. We are clearly in an age where innovation matters more than it ever had. Now if you just do something for 10 years and don't change it, somebody's going to knock it off in India or China and compete with you at half the cost. Why don't we say, as a nation, it is time to broadly train our entire population? I believe you shouldn't be able to graduate from grade 12 in this country without learning about how to innovate.
As the dean of one of the top business schools in the country, of course, you have a responsibility there as well. What courses with respect to innovation and competitiveness are there today that maybe weren't there 5 years ago? And what are you considering introducing to help postgrads address this problem?
Well, funny you should mention 5 years ago, but 5 years ago we started teaching in a very formal way innovation. It's after I worked with Procter & Gamble to teach Procter & Gamble people broadly innovation methodology that could be rolled out across the country. That was 2005. We brought it back to the business school, and we now have, you can major in business design and innovation in your second year. We have a whole suite of courses. It is teachable. We're experimenting with teaching it at the high school level. We're also teaching it at the BCom level. So it is utterly teachable. We teach it to all sorts of corporations. Interestingly enough, all of the corporations that the Rotman School teaches innovation are outside Canada.
This notion of kind of teaching it in a systemic way, would you agree it should start sort of at kindergarten? Because we tend to train it out of people, in fact. Our natural tendencies to, as you would say, think divergently or in opposable ways, to quote one of your books. Yes. We train it right out of kids.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right, Amanda. And I think lots of the researchers are focusing in on probably somewhere in the middle single-digit grade, somewhere between 3 and 7, the desire to create goes away. Yeah, I think we just have to rethink education in a fundamental sense. If you ask what the balance is in education, if you just say K through 12 for starters, education, how much is learning about what is and how things currently work versus what about creating something that does not now exist? And I think it's fair to say that it has to be a minimum 95% what is, maximum 5% what could be, and that's probably even generous on the what could be. I think if we just change the balance, yes, you have to learn lots about what is, you have to learn the times table and the like, for sure, but if we could change the balance a little bit, I think that would make a huge difference and not, as Amanda, you say, squelch the desire to innovate right out of our kids.
All right. It's a great book, Roger. We appreciate you joining us for this.
It's always a pleasure.
The book is called Canada, What It Is, What It Can Be. Roger Martin, its author. Still ahead, the soft